What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. So before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Gene for the $8 donation via the PayPal. And I'm assuming you could be with a name like Gene, it could go both ways. I'm going to assume you're a female. So you say, quote, so I just found out that in the 1991 season, Scottie Pippen wasn't even named an all-star. So MJ did one more thing LeBron couldn't, and that was win a chip without another all-star on the team. Love the videos and want to hear your opinion on this. Well, I got to be honest with you. Technically, LeBron did win a championship. And I say technically because of other extenuating factors, of course. But in 2015-16, he did win a championship without another all-star on the team. Because Kyrie Irving, although his numbers warrant him being selected that year, he missed like the first 25 games, 20 to 25 games that year due to an injury. So when he came back, which might have been like late December 2015, early January 2016, he really hadn't contributed enough to sufficiently warrant him being an all-star. However, Kevin Love played in almost like 80 games that year, something like that. And while his numbers were down, many people felt like he should have been selected an all-star. And Kevin Love complained about that. He complained about, people were so used to him putting up, 25 and, you know, 12 or 13 in Minnesota. And he said, look, I don't have the ball in my hands. I'm playing with guys that used to having the basketball. So of course my numbers are going to go down offensively, but my impact is still there. I'm still a scorer. I'm still a rebounder. My impact is still being felt on this team. So he was very disappointed in that he wasn't selected as an all-star. And I've always suspected that the reason why Kevin Love wasn't selected as an all-star, because we always know the third guy is always the one that struggles the most playing with LeBron James. We're going to see that this year. Whether that's Brown or VJ Edgecombe will remains to be seen. But anyway, I think some people will tell you that was I don't want to say conspiracy, but it was kind of favorable for the perception that LeBron wasn't on a super team. So let's not name these other cats all stars to downplay the perception that he's on a super team, even though we know Kevin Love was like a top 5 MVP candidate 2 years ago, and Kyrie was Rookie of the Year, and Kyrie is one of the best players in the league, right? And plus, we know with the finals in 2016, the league gave LeBron the severance package of the Game 5 suspension of Draymond Green. Andrew Bogut got hurt, I think, in Game 5 of that series. Curry was banged up. Iggy had a bad back. Harrison Barnes forgot how to shoot the fucking basketball, right? So all the stars aligned, plus Kyrie Irving, the guy who wasn't an all-star, supposedly, hit the biggest shot in Cavaliers history, only for LeBron to take credit for that shot years later and say that made him the GOAT. All those things happened to barely eke out a win for him. So technically, LeBron won a championship without an all-star. But as you said, Michael Jordan did it in 1990-91. Scottie Pippen, there was no league conspiracy to make Mike the only all-star. Scottie legitimately was not selected as an all-star. At that time, when you look at Eastern Conference, and let's go back to 1991 All-Star game. When you look at the forwards that were selected, you had Larry Bird, right? Charles Barkley at the peak of his powers, Dominique Wilkins, Kevin McHale, Bernard King, right? Bernard King, this is the year that he came back with the Washington Bullets and had averaged over 28 points a game. So when you look at the production of all those players that year, it warrants Scottie Pippen not being selected an All Star, right? Now, this is the thing. Mike also did it another year. In 1998, Michael Jordan was the only All Star on the Chicago Bulls. Because remember, Pippen only played in, what, 38 games that year? So Pippen was not an All Star that year. And that's the championship that I really am most impressed with Scottie Pippen. So when you look at the conference that year, as far as forwards, Sean Kemp, because he went to the Cavaliers then, Grant Hill, Glenn Rice, Steve Smith, and Antoine Walker, right? So Scottie only played in a handful, 38 games or so. His production was falling anyway. And Scottie Pippen was sort of banged up for the rest of that season. And then by the NBA Finals, his back gave out. And Mike pretty much won game six by his sheer will. He drove the Chicago Bulls through his indomitable will to that championship. Because look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Kukoc was kind of ratty a little bit at that point. Kukoc was kind of a little bit gimpy himself. Pippen was done for the year. Had that series extended to a game seven, I'm not sure if Chicago would have been able to eke it out. I mean, Mike would have had to have had probably a 50 to 60 point game to give the Bulls just a shot at winning it because Pippen was going to be able to do nothing. Pippen was probably going to go out there, give it an effort for a quarter, and then quit. Robin's not going to consistently give you 15 points a game, let alone 20. Harper was not the same player. He might could give you 15, but he wasn't going to give you 25 points a game. So no, Michael Jordan won two of his four championships as the only All-Star on the team. And that's an incredible achievement. Incredible achievement. Especially when you compare it to a guy like LeBron James who, I mean, he's on a team right now that has three, if they're healthy, three All-Stars right now. Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and Tyrese Maxey. And VJ Edgecombe, if he was on another team, is on that All-Star trajectory. We saw who he played with in LA. Luka Doncic. Austin Reeves probably would have been an All-Star had he not missed so many games this year. Anthony Davis, he played with Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, Rajon Rondo on what, two different occasions. Uh, Dwight Howard. I mean, he's played with a lot of guys, man. Brandon Ingram. We already know about Wade and Bosh and Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Anton Jameson. They lie and say he was washed up, but he wasn't. Shaq coming off a year when he was an All-Star with the Toronto Raptors when he joined the Cavaliers. They lie and say he was totally washed up. Ben Wallace. I mean, this guy's played with so many fucking Hall of Famers and perennial All-Stars, and yet he's 4-6 in the finals. Michael Jordan played with an All-Star 4 out of 6 championships. and went 6-0 in the finals. They can do whatever the fuck they try to and try to denigrate, but every team that he played had an All Star or a Hall of Famer on that roster, or multiple Hall of Famers. The '91 Lakers had Magic Johnson and Vonnie Divac, and I think James Worthy was kind of hurt, but still, I think he played a little bit in that series, remember so correct, but I'm not going to include him. So you got two Hall of Famers on that team. The '92 Portland Trailblazers, you have Clyde Drexler on that team, right? Hall of Famer. Terry Porter was for a stretch a perennial All Star, right? And you have Cliff Robinson, a guy that scored 19,000 points in his career, on that team. The '93 Suns, you got Charles Barkley, a Hall of Famer. Paul Westphal, who I believe was a Hall of Famer as a player and as a coach. You have, a guy like Dan Marley, who was a tremendous athlete and was an all-star level player in his prime. You have Tom Chambers, who was an all-star, a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, over 20,000 points in his career. Kevin Johnson, who should be in the Hall of Fame. Gary Payton, Hall of Famer. Shawn Kemp. At this point, the way they've lowered things as far as eligibility, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And Stockton Malone. Not to mention the head coach, Jerry Sloan, Hall of Famer. George Karl, Hall of Famer. Right? And the head coach of Portland, Rick Alderman, recently departed Rick Alderman, Hall of Famer. But anyway, that's all I got to say about this one, man. Tell me what you guys think.